Per usual, everything on this channel is for educational purposes only and is not intended as financial advice. Setup Sunday. Let's take a look at some charts here. And some days I come to you, dear viewer, listener, with a bunch of great ideas. And that's not going to be this week. I don't have many great ideas on lower time frames. What would be easiest for me is if everything pulls back, just because everything looks expensive. Now, there's certainly no reason necessarily that we'd have to pull back other than we've gone straight up for a little while, especially alts. But if I were to wake up a week from now and Bitcoin was down 5%, alts were down 25%, I'd say, well, okay, that makes more sense to me here than us going up. Now, again, that doesn't need to happen. But if we pull up the trusty dusty Bitcoin bull market correction drawdown cheat sheet here, 10% is reasonable. Not that I'm rooting for it or expecting it. It's just that to me seems like the path of least resistance here. This isn't cycles over at all. This is just, we've been running hot for a long time, and we generally don't give too many people free rides in either direction. For the ETFs last week, we still saw considerable inflows for BTC products, specifically IBIT. There was a short week, there was a holiday week before that. So it is what it is, right? It's less about what happens day to day, and it's certainly more about the trend of the flows. Flows are still trending very, very positive, consistently positive, week over week, excluding holiday weeks. For the rest of the year, towards the end of the year especially, we may see flows die off quite a bit because, again, it's holiday, it's end of year. The allocators tend to go on vacation, as do most people. And then when January comes back, that's really a better measure of where people's heads are at. So if I was trying to craft a narrative as to why BTC would be down, if it went down, it would probably be related to just weak flows. If flows slow down a lot, that's one thing to watch for. I will say that ETH net flows for the week were the highest since inception. Something definitely to watch into 2025 is ETH USD, ETH BTC, ETH ETF flows, and ETH seasonality. All favor ETH in Q1 as a trade. Certainly not as a long-term hold, certainly not as a community member. I'm not even going to use the word investor. It is purely, for me, a trade into Q1. But all in all, flows look really good to me still. On the high time frames, like I said in the open, we look fine. We are still in the middle of the power law, not even to the crazy part yet. We are above the midpoint here. We could bounce around here for quite some time. We did so in 2017, bounced around quite a bit, and then finally made a decision. That took quite a while, and I feel like consolidation is most likely here. Down is more likely than up here. That's just my gut feeling. Feels like anytime we try to get through 100 in a meaningful way, we just have a bunch of people coming to sell. And there's a lot of on-chain data to support that, a lot of long-term holders selling up here. We may have further tax selling towards the end of the year, rebalancing, right? There's just a lot of stuff that could happen, not necessarily in price's favor for continuation here. And as bearish as I might sound, there's the other side of the equation. What about Microsoft and their treasury? What about Amazon? What about MSTR? They're going to still keep buying, right? A lot of it's just kind of wait and see. Does MSTR get included into the NASDAQ or not? Do they get excluded for being considered a financial business, which I think that would be the easiest way to exclude them if I was NASDAQ on the committee and wanted to exclude them. That's what I would say. I'd say, well, they're a financial company. They don't belong in this index. Seems pretty cut and dry as far as that being a easy way to exclude them. So we'll see what happens. That's certainly something else to watch for. MVRV looks fine. Again, we're not towards cycle highs. This is not crazy market cap versus relative value. There's been a lot of on-chain activity, a lot of people selling. So if there's a lot of people selling, realized value goes up. And if realized value goes up, that means all that unrealized profit is not sitting on chain. So for a long trend over multiple months, years, that's what you want to see. The other side of that is, of course, we need buyers to step in, and those buyers appear to be here or on their way very shortly into 2025. So I'm definitely not worried about long-term MVRV. If we look at the 4-year moving average, and the colors on this are the speed at which the 4-year moving average is increasing. And we look fine. We are getting warmer, but we're not overheated. So anyway, we try to look at this and compare to previous cycle highs. I don't see any reasonable comparison that looks similar at all. Looking at seasonality, Q4 typically, we're in the wheelhouse. So the hard part is how much more do we really expect here, if anything? Again, I know I sound bearish. I'm not bearish. It's just, I think consolidation chop, probably the most likely outcome until next year. For ETH, of course, ETH's best quarter is Q1. It's tied for Q2 as far as most positive quarters outside of 2016, but ETH does best in the first half of the year. So if it's going to do anything relative to BTC, relative to SOL, based on seasonality, it's going to be the first half of the year. So I'm not going to fade Q4 for BTC, and it's certainly hard to fade Q1 for ETH. Looking at December for BTC specifically, kind of a mixed bag. Historically, we've had, these back-to-back green months. Okay. Again, this can be green 0.01% on December 31st to meet that criteria. It's just how much more do we expect here? Funding is hot, but not screaming. If we look across the altcoin universe here, it's elevated, it's high, it's not blow your hair back, right? It's concerning, but it's not, this can't keep going type activity. So it just feels like to me like everything is very much just middling here. Before I go any further, let me mention today's video sponsor, Kraken Pro. Kraken Pro is a complete overhaul of Kraken trading experience with a one-stop shop for advanced and professional traders. Kraken Pro enables efficient trading execution across multiple markets with a UI that allows for unique optimization tailored to your trading style. You can check out Kraken Pro with the link in the description of this video. Not investment advice. Crypto trading involves risk of loss. Cryptocurrency services are provided to U.S. and U.S. territory customers by Paired Ventures Inc., PVI, DBA, and Kraken. The other issue with going higher here immediately, quickly, is we spent the better part of 2024 consolidating. We broke out, but reached the target. So just based on technicals, this has nothing to do with the election. This is just purely consolidation breakout. Okay, now what, right? Again, I don't have any earth-shattering short-term ideas here because this was the earth-shattering short-term idea that we would break up, that we held above the cloud. The next step here is, can we hold the Tenkin? Can we hold this blue line? What the cloud is signaling here is that if we lose the blue line, if we lose the Tenkin, we risk fully mean reverting to this red line here at 82. Not a promise, not a guarantee. Doesn't need to happen. We could just sit here and do nothing for 30 days, right? I don't know. But again, I don't have any amazing ideas. Looking at the March comparison, we lost the Tenkin, didn't actually fully mean revert. It just chopped for a while. So the first step is, if this then that, do we hold this? If not, we make an attempt to go lower. If we hold this and maintain sideways chop, then the next exit signal on the cloud would be a bearish TK cross. That's a long ways away. That's into 2025 at that point, if we stay sideways. But I don't see much here at the moment. And it's similar across the ETH and SOL. We'll take a look at that. For SOL has already lost to the Tenkin, and you can see it's just tapping the Tenkin over and over and over again. Again, it doesn't need to break down. It's just, do you really want to fight here? If you're bullish, is this really the fight you want to take? I would much rather attempt bullishness even here. I mean, we have talked about this on this channel for a long time. This head and shoulders that broke out, that's a good place to fight. Here, I don't, even if we go higher, I don't see much to necessarily suggest that. I'd already talked about this 4-hour just did not look bullish to me. Head and shoulders didn't end up going anywhere in either direction. Still, it just doesn't really look like it wants to do anything to me. But that doesn't mean I see a great trade here, because I don't see anything. I love bids on any chart that has a cloud. I love bids on the Kijun. That's my best idea right now. Back to BTC for a second. There is also the pitchfork, and we are just as overbought as we were in March. And again, do we expect an immediate breakup before consolidation or reversal attempt? It's just tough. It's just tough to expect that immediately without further consolidation. So this may be the best idea. This is basically a straddle. This is using fibs to measure the depth of what we've chopped around so far. And, if we break down, this is the cloud saying, yeah, Kijun is real, 80, whatever is possible. this would be just the measured move higher. But I really don't see convincing evidence for higher just yet. So if you got something, let me know in the comments. IBIT as well, if we go through and we look at, what are people trading MSTR looking at? What are people trading IBIT or any of the ETFs looking at? It's the same thing. We take the high, we take the low, we use the fibs. We are in where you'd expect us to be on the move. Doesn't mean we stop. It doesn't mean we pull back, but it's just, I'd want to see a few more candles, show me a few more candles. Then we can try to make up our mind here. But I just don't personally see anything here. Looking at the Tenkin and Williams fractal, losing 54 on IBIT specifically would be a good stop loss level, with maybe a move to 45 or something like that. But again, my best idea here is wait for the pullback or wait to see what happens. Not, hey, this is a great trade. This is a great setup. That came and went. That train has long passed. We're still bullish, undoubtedly. It's just if I had to take a trade today, it would be waiting. SOL BTC is another one. I don't own any SOL. All I have is a lot of BTC and a little ETH here. But this trade is a setup that triggers after the breakout higher. So if it's losing support and it's losing the cloud, that's not a trade for me. And it's a great lesson that if this looks like it's setting up as something, it really doesn't matter until the breakout actually happens. It looks like, and still does, honestly, there's a bullish bias here in the market for SOL, but that's not currently how it's breaking. It looks like it's trying to potentially break down, and later on in 2025, it may still reach this target, right? Whatever, but it just says now is not the time. That's what it's telling me based on technicals. This was the SOL ETH. Ascending triangle didn't get anywhere near the target yet. Still bullish based on the cloud because it is above the cloud, but this thing is a mess. What is the trade here? I have no idea. It's just all over the place. Doesn't really look like much of anything. And then if we go deeper, if we look at the SUI SOL pair or whatever, right? Pick whatever you want. There may be better evidence to continue avoiding SOL. This to me looks like SUI has a decent shot here. And that's the reality. The reality is for altcoins, it's not about where you were last cycle or where you were last month. It's always what can you do for me lately? And that's what's going to push this higher. That's what's pushed meme coins higher. That's what's pushed all this other nonsense higher. Momentum, right? So if this can gain momentum against SOL, yeah, why not? But it's another breakout trade to watch for. There are a lot of rising wedges on these charts as well. This is definitely a rising wedge candidate, so I'd be careful there. But based on the tech, I like SUI over SOL here. Just looking at this, right? It's undeniable. As for ETH, this does exist, this cup and handle idea. I'm not saying it's not real. It looks pretty convincing, to be honest. It looks real, right? 10K, we'll see it. I could see a 2x from here on ETH in 2025. I think that's pretty easy. Past that, we'll see. Kind of depends on ETF flows. But this is also another breakout trade that's kind of just hanging here, waiting to break out. It looks good. The bias is bullish. The bias is get long, be long, stay long. But it hasn't quite broken 4K yet. And there's a chance, I don't know, right? We'll see if this, then that. But if I had to take a guess as to what would happen here, my guess would be that this is going to try to pull back maybe to 3,000. I don't know if it'll go that low. Again, this isn't like I'm short. I hope this goes down. Not at all. It's just something to watch for. And then you could have this 2024 into 2025 inverted head and shoulders fractal. Remember, I said I didn't have many good near-term ideas. This is ETH on the daily. TKC clamp starting, price well above Tenkin, well above the Kijun. If I woke up tomorrow and ETH was at 3,600, I'd say, well, that makes sense. It's just very overbought here. And most alts are extremely overbought here. This is ETH BTC on the daily into the cloud. You don't have a bullish TK cross yet. I love accumulation on this as deep as like 04 into January. This is the dream. The dream is everything pulls back, alts pull back more, ETH pulls back more than BTC. If you're still a believer in this setup, in this trade, that's where you take it seriously. And then the final call, the last call for potential bullishness would be price above the cloud. That's the highest conviction trade. That's the completion of the inverted head and shoulders. That's breaking above the midline of the pitchfork, and then 05 plus. So that's the path for what could happen. Now we have to see if that happens, and it's up to you and whether or not you trade that, but that's one way this could happen into 2025. Some of the other BTC pairs look surprisingly good. I say that because, DOGE is up, like 150% since November. It looks great on the 4-hour. It's just everything kind of needs BTC not to die off here to do well. Alts can tolerate chop. They can't tolerate BTC pulling back 5%. So Doge BTC looks good. It's above the 4-hour cloud. It is an ascending triangle. You wouldn't want this to lose the cloud or the diag. Pretty simple, but it does look like a bullish trade. This is Link USD, has done very well. A lot of DeFi has done very well post that Sachs Crypto Czar announcement. Definitely a theme to probably revisit into 2025 is ETH as an L1 doing things, ETH beta, DeFi, RWA, I don't know. Anything that was kind of out of favor for a long time may finally have the regulatory tailwind to succeed, but maybe that's why Link is doing so well. This is the 1-hour chart, but sure, this could be an inverted head and shoulders. Why not? Again, it's above the cloud. It's got the pattern. It's consolidated for a week here. It's a nice little setup into this week to watch. Here's Link BTC, same story. Also looks like a pattern that wants to try to break up, but this is the kind of stuff I would look for. Things that have consolidated and haven't broken out yet. That's why I caught the Pepe trade, because that thing consolidated on the 4-hour for quite a while. And then we got our 20% move over the weekend. TIA is another one that the trade has not triggered yet against BTC, but into 2025, just something to watch and keep in mind, and not to forget, oh, hey, there's still these charts that relative to BTC have not broken out yet, but have been beaten to a pulp and consolidated for quite some time. MSTR on Legacy. I don't have any good ideas here at all. This is why you watch the consolidation for months. You draw up a game plan, figure out where you like it, where you don't like it, and then let it rip, right? It went well past the measured move here, and we're still sitting slightly above the measured move. Cloud doesn't hate it, but it's, again, how much more do you want in December? And is it worth the potential downside risk? Downside risk based on the cloud, if we lose the Kijun, the cloud is the cloud is into the 200s at that point. Now, I don't think we're going to fully pull back to like 245 in December, but the technicals don't really say, hey, this is a great setup here. Everything else that related to anything that isn't the numbers and the math and the treasury and sailor buying and options and volatility, right? That's something else. That's not what I'm talking about here. That can certainly influence this, but I don't see anything here. I see nothing. I wouldn't feel comfortable taking a trade on this at this point in time. I'd love to see what this looks like in January. Square still looks great. I like this at any price below 100. If this pulls back 80, 90, whatever, looks great. Very strong. Just as a relative value, if you had to say, hey, this chart just broke out. This chart is 3 months past its breakout. Probably a stronger company, a stronger idea, but just the technicals would favor Square over MSTR. So for this week, I just like bids on Kijun. Do nothing, consolidate. I think it's going to be tough for us to do much of anything until CPI and the Fed and options expiries and then the end of the year. And it's just a lot of stuff that doesn't necessarily favor endless, mindless, bullish continuation. That's all I have for this one. Like, dislike, comment, share, subscribe, and happy trading.